All right, recording is going. This is day 3, FileMaker Intermediate class. And as I hinted at, my favorite area of FileMaker is scripting, and that's what we're going to get to today. So the first segment, we're going to have several segments again. We're going to have also lots of playtime today. We're going to dive right into creating a script, and this is all follow along. So everyone should kind of open up your database and follow along the steps that I'm doing. We're going to be building a script, interactively, iteratively, and really get into this. Okay. So the first thing we do, there's an area that we haven't really looked at much yet in the scripts menu called Script Workspace. Keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-S, Command-Shift-S on the Mac. And when you come in here, it remembers whatever scripts you used to be in, and it just shows them, so it just kind of holds that window for you. But what we're going to all do is we're just going to all create our own brand new script. So just click New Script in the top left. And then as with other things, we'll give it a name. And we're going to call it report, run report with your name. Because this is going to be a script that will run a report. So what it's going to do is we're going to go through some of the key steps. It's going to go through and search for data that matches a certain criteria, open up another window, show that data in a report layout, and kind of do some different things with it so we can kind of see what it looks like. And then we're going to attach it to a button when we're done. But we're going to do it step by step. So the first thing, when we get to our script workspace, the first thing I usually do is this window here is where you do all your typing. And this is very, very different than the calculation window. You can't just start typing code here, but you can click in here and you can hit some returns. And notice that it starts counting your lines. These are sort of just blank lines, comment lines. I usually like to try to leave some white space for readability as I write these. There's 4 really, really powerful script steps that we're going to start with right off the bat. And these are the 4. Enter or go to layout. So if you start typing, just click on any line and type in go to, and then notice that it pops up kind of like with the calculation. It gives you some hints on exactly what you're trying to do. And we're going to choose go to layout. So double click that. And then notice that there's also quite different than the calculation model. When you click on this, it's like in a little blue box. And this pops up another window that gives you a lot of other control. And we're going to choose that layout one. And then many of you, maybe all of you, have report layouts. Actually, I don't. I'll just use one of yours. And so just choose layout, go to report, and then choose your layout or someone else's if you don't have one. Okay, that's one key script step. The next one is enter find mode. So you start typing in the word enter, and then choose enter find mode. This one doesn't really have many choices. It has pause, yes or no, and there's a little gear that we didn't see in go to layout, but enter find mode has a little gear. So many of the script steps will have this, and this gives you some other choices, but we're not going to click on those right now. The third one is set field. Now, set field is interesting because it does different things if you're in find mode versus in browse mode. And that's different than what you've really experienced in just using FileMaker, but in scripting, that's an important thing. And this one also has a gear. Notice though that this one, the gear is blue. Oh, actually, it's blue when it's selected, when you hover over it. So they're all actually blue when you hover over them. I thought I was just about to learn something about FileMaker, but I just realized I forgot something about FileMaker. Okay, and this one, when you click on the gear, it actually gives you some more things. So one of the things we've already learned is that different script steps have very, very different interaction and controls within each one of them. But when you just look at them on a list, they all kind of look the same. So there's a lot of contextual menus that you can get on each line. So we're going to play more with set field in a minute. And the very last one is perform find. By the way, you can type in PERF, or you can actually also just type the first letter of the command that you want to run. So key F is perform find, and then just hit enter, and then it runs that step. I'll come back to these steps several times, but these 4 are very, very powerful steps to get things done in FileMaker. Go to Layout, enter Find Mode, set field, perform find. This is the equivalent of a SQL query, basically. Go to Layout, establishes your context. It basically says, what table are you searching in? And so we can say, I'm looking for data in the customer table or in the invoice table or in the work order table or whatever. Enter Find Mode basically says, I'm going to be doing a query. Set field says, what am I going to be looking at? This is really where all the magic is going to be done. And then perform find says, run the command. So the next thing we're going to do is actually do the set field command. We're going to play with this and run a report. Okay, so I'm going to click on the gear on set field, and then I'm going to configure both the top and the bottom areas of this. So the top one, I'm going to choose what field I'm actually going to set. We've been playing with simple reports that look for like everything in California or everything in San Francisco or something like that. I'm going to continue with that. I'll look for everything in the city where the city has the word San in it. So first of all, I just choose city and click OK. And then the second, the lower specify, what's this window? Our friend, the calculation dialog. We'll certainly see plenty of this today. And so I'm just going to hard code something in here, quote, quote, and I'm going to type in San. And that's going to find San Francisco, San Rafael, Santa Fe, San Jose, whatever, in the city field. Maybe not a super useful query, but good enough to test what we're trying to actually do. Then when I click out of that, notice that it shows me I'm searching in city and I'm searching for San. So I can read my code pretty well. One other small thing to notice, right now, I see a little asterisk that says this is not yet saved. So the asterisk tells me it's not yet saved. So scripts are kind of like Word documents. If I hit Control S to save it or go to the file menu to save, save script, then that will go away and it will tell me that now it's saved. So so that's one important thing. Okay, now the next thing, we've been playing with Data Viewer in the Tools menu. So you guys are familiar with that. We have not yet been playing with Script Debugger. And that's the next thing we're going to look at briefly. We're going to now run our code in Script Debugger to watch it run line by line. And this is one of the other things that's fundamentally different about scripting in FileMaker compared to calculations and other things, is we can actually watch it work line by line. So I'm just going to click Debug. And what that does is in one step, it opens up the Script Debugger window and starts my script running. Are you guys all at this screen with a 4-line script?
Yep.
Okay, great. So pause for a second there. Don't run anything on yours. And I'm going to talk about what these buttons do. And then I'm going to run through it on mine. And I want you to run through it on yours and kind of watch what it does. Okay. These are really useful buttons. The pencil opens up the script workspace and allows me to edit the script in a window behind where I am. And then I can actually kind of close it if I don't really want that. The play button, don't click that, just runs the whole script all the way to the end. The stop button halts right where we are and says, oh, I made an error. I got to stop right now and fix it. And then these buttons here, these next three, are sort of, they will play your script kind of like this one, but with some different characteristics. So this one will step over code. So if you've got subscript code and stuff that's more advanced, it'll kind of run to a certain point. This one runs to a set point. Sorry, it does step into. And this one does step out of. This one here, the step over, by the way, well, that's the one that actually runs to a set point. So you see the little green pip over on the left. You can actually put in points just by clicking in your script. And those create breakpoints in your script. that serve as markers for places where you're currently working. So you can kind of set these little spots. By far the most useful of all of these is this one here, step in. And what that does is it runs your script one line at a time while you watch it. So there's a certain, just kind of like, I'm not going to show it quite yet, but there's a flow that I get into with using these buttons in a certain order that's very similar to when I go to a layout and I make a button bar that has one segment. So there's going to be some reflexive habits you guys will get into. I'm now going to run this one line at a time. And we're going to see what happens. So I click the step into, and I see that my change go to layout is now done because now I'm on a different layout. Step in again, and I'm in fine mode now. Step in again, and it's actually setting the field. Unfortunately, I can't actually see the field because it's not on here, but it actually has set the field to sand. And then the last step is perform find, where it's going to actually run that query, and it found 21 of my 50 records that have the word sand somewhere in the city name. My script is now complete. So if I do this one more click, it'll be all the way out of it. And now it's no longer running. Each of you do that, and then let me know when you're done, and we'll take a look at the next.
I got a set of brackets on my set field one.
Oh, maybe set field has brackets. Can you share your screen?
I'll give it a shot. Whoopsie. Apparently it's not going to do it.
Oh, it's that same thing like we saw before?
Yeah. All right, let's.
Well, with your desktop showing like that, maybe just try hiding your mail and clicking on FileMaker, and it might just come to the front.
Oh, okay.
How's it working for everyone else?
I'm good.
I imagine some of you have actually done a little bit of scripting, either reading it or writing your own. But this is, well, hopefully we're going to, even if you have, hopefully we're going to cover quite a bit of new area.
Okay, this is the piece right here.
I'm not seeing your screen though.
It's not showing. Okay.
Nope.
It's not going to.
Is anyone else able to see it?
No. I don't think so. All right, I'll just take notes.
Yeah, I think I see hers.
I saw it.
Oh,
Do you see it now?
No.
Oh, here we go. Now I see your desktop. And
Yep,
now I see
I see it.
FileMaker.
okay.
Okay, great. Okay. I think I see part of what's going on here. Okay, click on the little gear on that line 3 set field.
Uh-huh.
You've configured the top part. Click on that top specify.
Okay.
The button to the right. The word specify is like on there 3 times. So the top part is what field am I searching in? That you've done correctly.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the bottom part. Click on the lower specify button.
Oh, so this, okay.
Aha, that's it.
Oops.
So you haven't put anything to search for here. Okay, so now you're searching on nothing. So click on that again, specify. So you need to put something in the quotes, like Fran, for example. Yeah, there you go. Fran, anything basically. Okay, now hit Control S to save it. And then click the debug button in the top.
Okay. Oopsie.
It's not saved yet. I see the little star on the script. Can you hit Control S, save?
I did, but it's not working.
It's not working. Sometimes that's sometimes with remote desktop, it runs a save command locally in your computer rather than in the other environment. So the other way to do it is to go to the File menu to save in the script workspace. You might have something else going on.
Yeah.
Is this script, did you actually click debug? Is there another window up on your other screen?
Let me see.
Oh, I see what's going on. Your script is paused. There's another very subtle clue that I see. In the top right corner, on the other window, it says script paused. Click cancel. And I see another issue that happened. On line 2, it says enter find mode pause on. Click on the word on. That toggles it.
Okay.
Okay, now save your script. Control S. Now it's saved. Great. Okay. And now click debug. Okay, now we're in the script debugger. And the script debugger and the data viewer work together really, really well. Okay, click that button that I showed you as my favorite one. That's the third one from the right of that long, the one called step in. One to the left of that. Yeah, that one right there. And then yeah, click it one more time. Now it's in find mode one more time. Now it actually put in San Fran or Fran, even though you can't see it. And one more time. Now it's actually done your query and the script is done running. So now you can close script workspace. Or sorry, the script debugger. And your script is run. And you have found the 12 records that are actually in Fran in the city name. Let's try, let's make 2 changes. Click on line 3 and click on the little gear. Others can follow along and try some different things here. Click on the top specify. And this time we're not going to search in city, we're going to search in customer, the second field on the list. Click OK. Click on the lower specify and type in dog. Now click OK, save, and debug. And we're going to add one more wrinkle to this. Okay, on this screen, we've talked about all those buttons on the left, right? So edit the script, play, stop, step in, etc. Oh, and it's frozen, huh? Is it frozen for anybody else?
No.
Let me try. I'm going to take over sharing for a second, and then we've got a really good flow. So
Yeah, and it may just be my connection. I was having problems with Teams yesterday.
all right, let's continue. Let's continue then.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. The next thing I wanted to show you is we didn't talk about those 2 buttons over on the top right. So one of them is, you know, that S one. I'm not sure. Oh, that's script triggers. I never click on that button. But the other one, data viewer, is the one I want you to click on. That brings up the data viewer window. Now we spent some time on this one, but so far we've only been looking at the watch tab. Move the data window over to the right a little bit so that we can see it next to the script debugger, and make it a little bit bigger, please. This actually will show contextually, as the script is running, real data and real things that are happening in your script. These 2 are really good friends, these 2 windows. Okay, back over in the script debugger on the left, click that step in button again, and let's keep running our code. So we're on our layout. One more time, we're in find mode. Now notice that over in the data viewer, it changed. because since we're in find mode, there are no values on anything right now. Click one more time into step into. Now we can see over on the right, it says, oh, even though you're in find mode, you're currently searching for a value called dog. And also over on the left, because the field happens to be on the layout, it's actually showing that we're searching for dog in the customer name. If you guys didn't also change your code and you're still searching on the city field, which is not on the layout, you will see in the data viewer that it will say city and you're looking at the city SAN or whatever you were searching on. Okay, now click one more time to perform find. Now the script is done running, so data viewer is done with its job and script debugger is done with its job. They both go clear. And you found the one customer that matched dog. All right, so pat yourselves on the back because you guys just wrote a script. Pretty sweet. Let's continue, and we're gonna attach that script to a button, and we're gonna keep making it do cool, fun things. Okay, close those two windows. Yep, this is good. I'll have you keep driving because it's more fun this way for me. Go to your data entry layout. Yeah, we can close the script workspace for now because we're gonna for the next minute we're gonna just be doing layout type things. So enter layout mode, edit, which is edit layout in the top right, or Control L, and then navigate in the top left where it says layout report Susan to like customer Susan. I organized all of our layouts into folders here. Did you guys notice that? And then we're going to make a button, and we're going to attach the script that you just wrote to that button. How do you make a button? You remember? Yes. Never use the button tool, only ever use the button bar tool. That's my advice. Draw a box kind of anywhere on your layout. Reflexively click the minus button twice to make it a one segment. Give it a name. Just type the word report in that box that's blinking cursor. And then now we're going to do something we haven't done before. In the bottom, action, where it says do nothing, we're going to now do something. So if you click on that, you get two choices, single step with perform script. Click perform script, and then this will list you all of the scripts that exist. Run your script or be bold and run somebody else's. Oh, you're going to be bold.
I like it.
You go, girl.
I'll get that because
I was sure you were not going to take the bait on that. You're trusting someone else in the class. That's so great. Okay. So that's basically as simple as it is. That's how simple you can make a button on your layout and do some navigation. I'm not sure why the word report is not showing up. So go ahead and move that button somewhere else on the screen and make it a little bit wider. The word report should be showing.
If she exits out of the box, it will show.
There you go. Okay. Now go to browse mode. Oh, there was another very subtle thing happened. Actually, maybe didn't, but there's something else I'm going to want to talk about at some point. Click on one of your other tabs, like your work orders tab. Yep, it did happen. Notice your button, it disappeared.
Yep.
Why did it disappear?
Because I only put it on one.
Yeah, it's not obvious. Go back to layout mode. It's very much not obvious, but that button is actually part of the second tab. It is not just hanging out on the layout. It's actually part of the second tab. Make it a little bit shorter and move it up next to the other calculation. Yeah, so now it's actually not as part of the tab object. Now it's just part of the top part of that layout. And then it'll be there no matter what tab you're on. Okay, then I'm going to show you the next part, and then we're going to continue working on our script. Okay, before you click the button, go to the Tools menu. This is the place that we looked at Data Viewer, and then turn on Script Debugger. So just check it from the list, and that will open up that window. Now, click on the Report button. Now, it actually says, oh, you just clicked on a button that is attached to a script. So click Step In. And then again and again. So it's now going to Layout, entering Find mode, setting field, perform find. Oh yeah, look, that one actually has a pause in it too, and then it does the search. Hey, Carly, good job. Your script
Thanks.
worked.
I'm
Yeah,
glad.
and Susan, nice job trusting her. So that's great. This is good. We've actually just created a report that's triggered and made a button and attached it to the script. That's exactly, we're done for the day. This is good. Everyone have a good weekend. Totally kidding. Let's see, navigate back to your home screen. And then let's go back into Script Debugger. Carly, how do you feel about sharing your screen?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Do I need to get out first?
Nope. When another person shares, it just takes over. I kind of like that feature. I wonder if I'm ever going to be able to teach this class and never share my screen once. That would actually be a really fun experiment to try.
Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the same little very, very small thing you did, which is enter find mode pause on.
Mhm.
The pause adds one little delay that we don't really need. So that's one thing that that we can turn off.
Okay.
Let's talk about what we'd like this to do that's a little bit better than it's doing right now. One thing that I want it to do is I don't want it to just change layouts. I want it to be a new window. So if I'm looking at some particular customer, by the way, loving your screen. The colors are good. The gradation's nice. I want to stay at the screen I'm looking at for Dogwood Creek Center. But I want to run this report to say, hey, who have I got going on that's matching some criteria? So click on line 1 and hit return a couple times. Add some white space. Now click on line 2, and we're going to add a new line of code here, which is new window. So type in new, and then new windows on the bottom there. Okay, this command, like a lot of the other ones we've seen, has many options. Click on the gear. And notice that the top one there, the window style, FileMaker supports many window styles. A document window is a regular old window, kind of like if you just like interacting with FileMaker normally. Floating document and dialog are special, and they're not really very useful. Card is actually really useful, but we're not going to use it for this case, but we will get to it. A card window will pop up a window that's, and it will dim everything behind it. And it basically draws attention to itself to say, hey, this is the really important thing going on right now. Deal with this. And then you have to click OK or whatever to close it before you can go back to your thing. They're really nice for many different types of functions. But for now, we're just going to go with document. The window can have a name. Call it Carly's report. And it can have a position and a size. Let's not worry about the width and height, but let's definitely worry about the position. Because if you don't put a position in, the window will be created exactly on top of your current window, which I don't want. So let's put in 200 from top, that's just points, and 100 from left. Or make up some other numbers, it doesn't really matter. But they should be under 500. Because if you put like 4,000 in there, it'll be off screen. FileMaker will actually draw a window off screen. Okay, click OK. And let's just make that one change right now. So save it. Did you make a button? Okay, so close the script workspace and then turn on script debugger.
Where can
Any
I?
tools?
Oh, there it is.
And then run your button. And then step into. And then there's your new window. And there's your new window distance from your other window. So that's what 200, 100 looks like. And then go ahead and step into again. And now it's done. Great. Okay. We're going to do two more things. So close that new window that popped up. And we're going to make a change to our script. And we're going to run it without debugger. These are two things you generally don't do together. When you make a change, you always should kind of debug it. But what I want to do is I want to add one extra step, and you're exactly at the right spot, line 10. So click on line 10 and say enter preview mode. Preview mode is kind of how you would see what it would look like to print before you print it. Okay, so save this and close script workspace. And then go for broke by clicking your button without debugger. There's your report. So this is a really common kind of a thing that you'll see in a lot of FileMaker systems, where you want a button to do some action, to pop up a window to show you some data that matches certain criteria. So let's keep working on it. Do you want to keep sharing, or should I pick another victim?
Doesn't matter to me. If anyone wants to, then go ahead.
So close that window that popped up, and let's talk about some of the other things that we can do. And let's add some more powerful features in that in the main area of power in our script, which is set field. So go back into your script and take a look at that. And let's not make it hard-coded anymore. So click on that gear again and click on the top specify. Now we're going to say, you know what, I'm not going to look for data in customer. I'm going to look for related data. I want to know all of the customers that had a note today. So change where it says see customer at the very top to notes. And then click the note date and click OK. So we basically said, now we're not doing a search in the customer. We're searching in the related note of the customer. And in the lower specify button, now we're going to put a function in. So rather than hard coding, we're going to use get current date. You're familiar with that. And then click OK, save it. And save it and go for broke. What do you think is going to happen before you run it? Anyone have a guess?
It will probably work.
I'm thinking you're going to get an error because I don't think there's actually any notes for today, but maybe there are. Click it and see what happens.
Oh.
Yes. So.
Is it searching for dog?
No, it's actually doing the search exactly the way you want it to, but there are no notes today. So now we've entered the world of error trapping, which is exactly what I was hoping would happen. So this shows a dialog that the user would not understand. Like they clicked a button expecting something to happen, and they expected, like if there aren't any notes today, they would want a friendly message, not this message. Because continue does who knows what, cancel does who knows what, and modify find does who knows what. Right? The user is not going to know that. I don't know that. Like click continue. I honestly, I don't know if it's going to show you all records or nothing. Yeah, it's just a blank screen. Okay, now let's talk about how we deal with this. So go back into your script And I'm going to introduce two things to you. One of them is comments. So click on line 1 and hit the pound sign. Did that work?
I have to find it. This is a new keyboard.
Yeah, pound sign is how you enter a comment. And so this is where you can just write a sentence like, you know, this is Carly's script that's going to run a report to show today's notes for today or something like that. Comment liberally. Comment right where you do things. Comment right where an error might happen. So click on line 9 and hit return a few times. Click on line 10 and add a new comment that says something like test for no found records. You type fast and then hit enter to save it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what'd you do?
I don't know. I think I just. What was it before? Something for no found records?
Yeah, just say test for no found records or something like that. So now we're going to start error trapping. But really all we're doing at this point is we're just putting a note in about what we're about to do. Okay. So, boy, there's so many different ways that I do this. So really what we want to do here is we want to do something conditional. So like at this point, after it does a perform find, it's either going to find records or it's not. Those are the only two options. I guess there's also some other errors that could happen. So what we really need, click on line 11. And we talked about if and case. There is no case command in scripts. It's just if and else if. And I don't know why they did that, but they did. So type in if. And then now we get our first branching logic part of our lesson. And over on the right, you see the little FX, the little function button. That's our friend, the calculation dialog. Yeah. And then what we want to say here is we want to test for whether records were found or not. So this is a new thing that you haven't seen yet. And we're going to use a get function, and it's called get found count. In parentheses, so type get and open parentheses and type in FOU, and then there it is. Okay, if get found count is greater than 0, then click OK at the bottom. Now, notice, by the way, that we didn't actually have to write a case statement or anything like that inside of our calculation. We're just doing a single test. Because when you write an if statement, it works, it just knows to evaluate it as Boolean. And the way, click on that FX again, and the way that we know that is it tells us down at the bottom, calculation must be Boolean. So some calculations, that's kind of, they're sort of hard-coded to work that way. So if the record count is greater than 0, then we want to go to preview mode. So move that code on line 14 by clicking and dragging it up to between 11 and 12. And then hit enter right there. And then there's two other things that we could do. There's an else, so just type in else. And notice that we have else and else if. So you can have any number of else ifs. So the if statement in scripting works exactly like the case statement in calculations, in that you can have any number of tests and results. It also works the same in that the first one that's true will skip the rest of them. So that's one thing you should know. But in this case, it's just going to be A or B. So it found records, it's going to show you, else hit enter. Let's do a show custom dialog. So this is another script command that will show an error message to the user. So type show. And then you can see show custom dialog, click the gear. And then just like with other things, we see very different type stuff. In the dialog, let's have fun with it. And say something like, yeah, we didn't find nothing. And then you get multiple choices. So you can have multiple buttons that come up. So you can change the button to say something like darn or something like that. And then also the button text is its own calculation, as well as the message. So this will allow you things like multiple languages or any other kind of a thing. So that calculation dialog is everywhere. Click on it, click on the one right next to darn, the specify button. And here's a whole new calculation dialog that we could have a whole case statement in here if we wanted to show a specific type of a message that looks at like my username or any kind of a thing like that. We're not going to play with that right now. I just wanted to show you how that works. And then delete the word cancel because we're not going to give them any other choices. We're only going to give them one choice, which is darn. And then click OK. Okay. In addition to this, I think I probably don't want that window to be there. So click on line 13 and hit enter and type in close window. So I'm showing some things that shows my experience of stuff, but I'm also leaving a couple of things broken here intentionally that we're going to have to go back and kind of do. We're really iterating and we're really adding to this and testing it bit by bit. So this is definitely the best way to do this is write a little code, test it, write a little code, test it, set up an error so that your code will break, test it, trap for the error. So you kind of really do this slowly and carefully. It's not a good idea to try to like come up with an idea of a huge script that you're going to write the whole dang thing and then start testing it. That's my 2 cents. Okay. Go ahead and save this. And then rather than going to the whole save the script, click the button, blah, 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 just click the debug button. We'll just stay right where we are. All right, click step into. Makes a new window. Goes to find mode, sets the field. Oh, hey, why is it showing me this stupid error message? I don't want to see this. That's exactly the point that I wanted to display. So for now, we have to click continue. And I'm going to show you one more thing after we keep running our code. Okay, so that just sort of skips past it. But now notice we have a red thing that says, hey, by the way, there's an error. No records match this request. So when FileMaker encounters an error that would normally show a dialog box, such as no records match this request, or invalid mode, or that field's not part of this layout, or anything like that, or another user is editing this record, the script will track that and store it internally as an error. And all the errors have code numbers. This particular code number is 401. And you can trap for those as you're writing your code. Okay, go ahead and click step into again. Now, the current found count was not greater than 0. So it went to my else code, not my else code, your else code, and it closed that other window. And then step into again, and now it's going to show a dialog box. And go ahead and click the button. And then click step into one more time, and now our script is done running. Okay. We're going to add one more line of code then we're going to take a little bit of a break and let you guys play with this for 10 minutes. And I want you to like try some different things, try some different queries, come up with some ideas of how you want to break this. And then when we come back from the break, we'll show me what you've done and take a look at it. But the first thing we have to do is there's one other line of code that we have to add that's not at all obvious. And that is we have to tell FileMaker not to show me the standard error messages, which is a command called set error capture. So click on line 3 and type set. Yeah, so set error capture. So this basically says, hey, don't show me error messages. It's a little weird, but that's what that does. Add that line, move that up to line 2, or like between 1 and 2. Yeah. And then save it. And this time close your script workspace and then run your script from your button. And now notice that we didn't get the error. So we didn't get that first error. It just says, yeah, we found nothing. Okay, now let's make our script work correctly. Click over to the Notes tab after you click Darn. And then add a new note. So where it says make a new note, type this is the test. That makes a note timed with today's date. And if you now click report, your report will now work because now there actually is a record with today's date. If you deleted that note, it would go back to the other way. All right. How do you guys feel about this? I bet Xavier, I bet you're especially loving this because this is, I think, especially new to you, I know.
That seems very useful.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Have the rest of you have done scripting like this before? Is this not new to anyone?
I've done some scripting, but I need to fine tune it.
Yeah, same. Very like minimal basics.
Okay. Well, it's my favorite area. There's so much power, and a huge amount of it. There's hundreds of script steps. We're going to do a tour a little today, actually, of the script steps, but it's kind of a subset of them, a pretty small subset where all the power lies. You know, like the 80-20 rule. Okay, so keep playing, and then I'll make some coffee and be back in a couple minutes, and we'll continue. Okay, anybody have questions on that part? Or want to show what you've done? Because we're about ready for a very big left turn otherwise. Did anybody put in sorting in their script after the perform find and the preview mode?
No.
All right, who's ready for the next thing?
Yep.
All right. We're going to change gears completely. And we're going to go to how to create a relational value list. So let me share my screen. Actually, I don't think I will. I'll have, will one of you guys volunteer? I'll have you guys drive. Follow up on my idea from a minute ago. What I want to do is on our data entry screen, I want to come up with some idea of like a picker or a way that I could get something meaningful that I would track for this customer that would look up from a list and then have like sort of two lists that connect to each other. So one of them being the subset of the other one. Does anybody have ideas of stuff like that they're trying to work on in their job? I have some standard ones, but it's better if you guys could give me ideas. Not that I want to build it, but like city state could be one example. Or like region and sub-region, or category, subcategory. For example, if the customer could be like they could be like a gold level or a silver level. And then within each of those levels, if they're gold, then there's like 3 different subcategories, something like that. Anybody have ideas like that?
No.
Let's use that one because it's simple. Is someone gonna volunteer to go?
I'll do it.
Okay, great. I was about to volunteer you, Xavier. Because I know you really like this. You've been a good sport. All of you have, actually. Let's just use that silver gold idea. It's dumb, but it will serve the purpose. So each of our customers is in like some group. And so we're going to build a table. So there's for some of these parts, you guys can follow along. But there's one aspect, like when you build a new table, only one person can do it because you don't really want to have your own copies of the same table. Make a table called metal. And let's say that there's, and then click OK. Oh, yeah, go back into it. We're going to really make this table simple. We're going to delete all of those fields. And it's only going to have one field in it. And that's going to be the word metal. And yeah, it's a text field. So click create and then go OK. And then we've made a field. And so we'll do this bit by bit. So click OK. And then we're going to start by making a value list that's not yet relational yet, but just shows me all the data in that field. So when you make a new table, as you just did, FileMaker automatically puts it on the graph, and also it automatically makes a layout. So if you go to your layout menu, you'll see the new label table at the bottom. It didn't actually put the field on it though. And that happened actually because we went and we did this in 2 passes. We first made the table, deleted fields, and then we went back in and added a field. So go to layout mode, and we're going to add the 1 field to this layout. You can just drag it over from the left there. Go to browse mode. Yeah, you can, yeah, drag it out. You're good to go. Now just go to browse mode. You're done. We'll leave it. It's ugly. Make a new record. And then type gold. Another new record. Silver. And another new record. And pick some other metal that's not bronze. There you go, copper. So now we're going to go back to your data entry screen, your customer screen, and we're going to attach a value list that uses those values and stick it on the additional tab. Not a lot of space there, but we'll figure it out. So first of all, there's actually one other thing we have to do. We currently don't have a field in the customer table that allows me to choose what metal or what level this customer is. You actually do have one down there called a field 3. I'm not sure what that is. Go to the, back to your managed database. Yeah, I think a couple of accidental fields got made. This happens from time to time. Rather than making a new one, let's just take one over. The one called field 3, rename it customer level. It does not have to be called metal. And then you could comment on it, you know what level they are, which is a good idea to do. And then click change. So in this case, because you're not creating it, you're just taking it over. And then click OK, and then it'll actually be down there at the bottom of our layout. So then you can move that up to like above contracted work or something like that. Okay, while we're here, click on that customer level field, and then now we're going to take a look at the value list part that we haven't looked at yet. So single click to select it, and then over on the right we have that column, and there you go. That's exactly the right one. It's the data, the 4th tab, and there's a control style area. We looked at this a little bit for checkboxes and radio buttons, and we looked at it for hard-coded value lists like weekly, monthly, yearly, but we have not looked at it as data-driven ones yet. So let's make it a pop-up menu. Actually, no, let's make it a radio button. And then where it says values from, click the pencil. This is a list of all of the value lists we currently have. Oh, you know what? One of them actually is. The keyword one is data-driven. That uses data from the keyword table. So click new. And then call this one customer level. And then you see the 3 choices down below, values from field, another file, or custom. So click the top one, which is from field. And then this is going to be from the table called metal. And it's the field called metal. And that's all it is. We're done. So this is really simple. It says include all values, and there's no second field. That's just what it is. Except you can't click OK yet. Now you can. Yeah. OK. Now what's going to happen is if you click OK and click OK again, and go to browse mode and go to your additional tab, you can choose gold and then go to the next customer and choose silver, and then go to the next customer and choose whatever. And then you know what? I don't think I want gold, silver, and copper anymore. I think I want gold, silver, and platinum. So go to your metal and change the word copper to platinum. What's going to happen? So what's going to happen to that customer record that we just looked at, that we actually set copper?
I
Why don't we
think
go
it
back?
keeps copper, doesn't it?
Pardon?
Will it keep copper in there?
It actually does, but it's going to be invisible because it's a radio button. So go back to the other layout. Now, you guys couldn't make the field, but you can and should, if you're playing along, add this field to your layout somewhere. So now you see those choices have changed, which is nice. Let's go to layout mode again. And you know what? We don't really need the word customer level. We don't really need because it's kind of obvious. You can get it from context. So delete the word customer level and then move the thing way up to the top right. Yeah, even in the blue. And we're also going to change it and have it no longer be a radio button. Let's make it a drop down or like one of the other choices, drop down list or pop up menu. I like pop up menu better because you shouldn't have any of the other choices in here. Okay, now when you go to browse mode, this is where you're going to actually see copper, and there it is right there. Okay, don't change it yet. Notice that the word copper is there, but if you click it, copper is not on the list. So copper is a valid value because it used to be a valid value, but now it's not. So if you change it, so this is actually kind of good as you evolve your choices in your list. It's actually really good because you can kind of keep them up to date. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the difference between a pop-up menu and a drop-down?
Yeah. So go to layout mode and let's talk about them. So the current choice that we have is a pop-up menu. A pop-up menu does not allow the user to enter something that's not on the list. So it gives you a list that can be really long. It can fill the whole height of the screen. But it only allows you to type in what's on the list. A drop-down list, change it to drop-down list. And now go to browse mode. And then if you click into it, you delete the word gold and type gobbledygook, just type a bunch of characters. So that one allows you to enter something that's not part of the drop-down, but it still gives you the choice of the drop-down if you want. So basically it's like overwritability. There's a couple of other things too. There's some changes in type ahead, and there's several stupid subtle things that make no sense at all, but they've been features in FileMaker since the beginning of time. And so they just kind of work different ways. Pardon?
It doesn't add it to the value list, though. It just allows you to override it at this level. Okay.
There actually is another choice. When you use a data-driven value list that gets data from a table like this, none of the choices allow you to modify the value list in a way that modifies the table. But one of the other types of value lists that we have, like if you click to the additional tab, we have that hard-coded value list in the lower right there, contract type. We could put a checkbox on that allows you to modify the value list. Go ahead and do that. Go to layout mode, because this is the value list area we're talking about right now. Okay, notice that over on the right, it says radio button set, values from type, allow entry of other values. It actually does not give you an edit button. Click on the pencil next to the type. This is where you choose what the value list is. So actually, I don't think a radio button does give you that. Let's see. Let's do this. Click cancel and change this type from a radio button to a pop-up menu. And notice that we get some other checkboxes that appear, one of which is allow editing a value list. So check that box and then go to browse mode. And then we're going to see a new thing appear when you go to that tab, which is edit. Click on edit. That actually allows the user to modify the value list.
Okay.
And so in this case, they can put in whatever they want, and now that becomes a choice. And there it is. That's a very good demo, Xavier. Okay, now let's continue with the relational part of our gold, silver, platinum thing. So what I want, the behavior that I want to create here is if you choose gold, I want a second list to pop up to the right of it that says yellow, white, or rose. And if you choose platinum, I want the choices to be fine and dull. And if you choose silver, well, I'll come up with 2 other words. How do I do that? Who has ideas?
Maybe brushed or shiny.
What was that?
Brushed, you know how it kind of looks a little bit dull, like a scratch look, or a shiny.
Oh yeah, that's good. I like that. For silver, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. How do I build this structure, do you think? Okay, so scratch, shiny, platinum. Yeah, okay. How do I add this widget to show a second field on the layout that gives me the choice, the sub choice? Any ideas? Have any of you built these before?
I have, but I'm blanking.
They're hard, and that's why we cover it in class. The way that we do it is we have to make another table. So let's make another table. Let's call this one submetal. Now this table needs 2 fields. So go into it and delete those 5. It needs the metal because it has to know within gold, there's going to be 3 records in the table for gold, white, rose, and I can't remember the other one, yellow. And then for all the other choices, so it's going to have several records in this table. So go ahead and create that field and then make another field called sub and create that one. And then we're not quite done, but go to the relationship graph and notice that we have these 2 things just hanging out there now. They're not related and they don't even really need to be yet, but we're going to have to do something here in a minute. So I just want you to be thinking about that. Okay, so click OK. And let's first populate our data at least for gold. So we have to make a record. Change the table view here. The rightmost one of those 3. And then say yes to save it. Make a new record. And then say gold, yellow, gold, white. You type like me. And gold, rose. And then silver scratched. And silver dull. I don't know. Those are good. These would be really very odd ways to categorize customers. What level are you? Dull silver. We don't need, let's just stop with those for now. Because what I really want to get to is how do we make this work? So if you go back to your layout, what other thing do we need to do here? So there's several. Anything occur to you?
You have to put that second field on there.
A field, exactly. That is the exact next step. We have to actually have a field that allows us to store for this customer what their sublevel is. So let's create that field now. It's go to Manage Database. You don't do it from here. You could actually, but it's just better in Manage Database. And it's actually in the customer table.
Whoops.
So back to Manage Database and Customer. And then now we need a field called Submetal or something. Or what do you call it? Customer Subcat is really what it is. Sublevel, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. Come up with something good. And yeah, we're not going to reuse field 2. You could just make this new one. That's all good. Ooh, I love that you guys have been making fields in there too. Okay, so click OK. And then in the top right, where you have, oh yeah, notice, by the way, I'm going to do a brief aside. It created, when you made a field on your table, it automatically added it to your layout. And I would bet in most circumstances, you never want that. But it's the default behavior in FileMaker. Here's how you turn it off. Go to the Edit menu to Preferences, way up in the top left. On the bottom is Preferences. Go to Layout and uncheck the box, Add newly defined fields to current layout. You almost never want that, so that's just a good thing to turn off. There's some other really good preferences in there too, but that's okay. Okay, on our layout, the customer level field doesn't need to be anywhere near that wide because it's only going to take a very small word. The widest one is platinum, so make it around as wide as platinum. Sub-level is also really small. So down on the bottom, make it really narrow and then move it up next to level. To the right of it. Because it's secondary. Now the hard part. So there's two non-obvious things that we have to do to make this work. So first of all, to point at what we're going to try to get to, click on your sub-level field and go to your value list settings where it says edit box and change it to pop-up menu and click the pencil. And we can start by creating a value list called customer sub-level. And now we're going to get to the screen that's really challenging. So it's going to be from field. So this one is where we have to say, okay, what is it going to do? So first of all, let me sort of describe what's going to happen. And then we have to sort of build the structure of it. The way that this needs to work is it has to actually take a look at the metal assigned to this customer, not the metal from the main metal database, but the metal assigned to this customer. But then take that information, go look at the sub-metal table that we just created, find all the records that match the metal for this customer, and show me only the ones that match that metal. Follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a, not a super complex query, but how to do that from this screen is not super obvious. So the first thing we have to do is we actually have to build the relationship structure to do it. So go to Manage Database. Actually, there's a button right where you were. Go back into New and create that sub-level again. And it was actually pretty subtle in there. But when you, at the bottom of that list in the top left where it says Use Values, there's a Manage Database button, which gets you right to where you want to be. And then when you go to your graph, weirdly, you don't need a relationship between the metal and the submetal table. It's actually a good idea to do it anyway. So go ahead and make a relationship there. because when we're doing data entry, it's kind of nice to see them that way. When we're doing data entry to maintain what metals and submetals exist, I mean, it's actually a good idea to do that. But for this relationship, for this value list to work, we actually have to have a relationship from customer to what? What table are we linking to customer to make this work based on what I just described?
Metal.
Close. It's submetal. So we actually have to link customer to submetal for this to work. Like I said, this is not obvious. So here's what you do. Click on the submetal table over on the right there once, and then duplicate it. And then move it. I guess we kind of have to make some space here. We kind of want it to go like underneath notes in the customer area. So what I would do is probably, select everything from question on down and make some space. You can draw a box around it. It's much more efficient to draw a box. Yeah, there you go. But just click on the white area and draw a big box around everything. That's the more efficient way to select things, by the way. Okay, so we need a relationship from customer to submetal. So drag any two fields from customer to submetal to connect them. And then hit Control O. So let's do that again. Hit cancel. Delete, click on that relationship, the selected thing, and delete it. That just deletes the nature of the relationship. I'm going to slow down again. The best way to make a relationship between two things on the graph is to drag two things together. Do it again. And then just hit Control O. And that's because this screen, the edit relationship screen, is way more flexible, and it's really the place you want to be to modify the relationship, because you can scroll through all of the fields on both tables really, really conveniently. Okay, scroll to the bottom of the customer list on the left, and there you see customer level. And then over on the right, there's two fields you can connect to. Which one are you going to connect to?
Metal.
Metal?
Yes.
Correct. So click change. And now our relationship is done. So click OK. That is a query that we just built that says, for this customer, go look in the submetal table for all the records that match the metal I have assigned to this customer. Okay, let's name this table occurrence better. We have chosen a naming convention in this table occurrence group, which is the C prefix. Double click on submetal 2 and rename it C underscore submetal. While we're at it, let's fix note. Let's call that one C note. And take out the S. That makes it funnier because now it's like a $100 bill. Okay. I think it's kind of a good idea to just sort of maintain consistency as you build those out. So that's hard part number 1. That's not super obvious. Now the hard part number 2, which is even less obvious. Click OK. We're actually right back to where we were. So at this screen, now that we've got our correct relationship set up, now we actually say, OK, starting from the field, and it's unhelpfully chosen C submetal. So basically what we want to say is use values from the first field, which is actually the metal of the current customer, so the customer status. So click on that little drop down there and scroll up to customer, or down, see customer. It's at the top there. and then scroll to the bottom and choose customer level and click OK. Actually, that's wrong. I think I gave you bad advice. Click back on specify field. Oh yeah, I did give you bad advice. We want to show, yeah, in this case, we're only going to be looking at one value. We're starting from customer, but we actually want to show the field from the related table. So where it says see customer at the top, I definitely gave you bad advice. Choose see submetal or whatever we called it. Yeah, and then choose sub. That says, that's the second half of our query that says these are the values that I want to actually see. If you get any one of these things wrong, it's going to break in a weird way. Let's actually break it intentionally so you can kind of see. Click specify field again and choose the metal field instead. Okay, now click OK. And click OK again. And then if we go to our layout, browse mode, and you choose on that second list, it just has the same metals again, right? So interestingly, there's only two because we actually haven't made any values for the third one, but it's not quite right. So click back on that right list and click the pencil. And let's fix it. So click edit and then choose sub. And now it should actually work correctly. So if we choose, yeah, now it says, okay, it's actually still not quite right, is it?
No.
Nope. Because that's showing us every single possible choice, not just the choices for gold. This is a tricky feature. I do this all the time, but even for me, this is one of the things that I sometimes have to revisit and just kind of futz with it until it's working. There are also multiple different ways to get this same kind of a widget working. And frequently, I don't use these. I use a different method for them. But let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Did anybody see anything that looked kind of wrong in that? Any ideas to where we can go looking?
Go back to the value list.
Yeah, let's do that. Ah, there's my problem. This is what I forgot to talk to you guys about. And you hit it right on the nail there. It's including all values. It has to actually say only related values starting from, and before you click on that, where are we starting from? Don't click anything yet. Click on that list to show, and where do you think, what are we going to be choosing here? Who wants to hazard a guess?
Customer?
The customer one?
Customer. That's a great guess, and it's great because it's correct. Although wrong ones are also great guesses. It has to start from customer because it's basically saying, take a look at this customer's metal and show me this customer's submetals. Okay. Now there's a couple of other things on here that we don't really need to look at, like resort and show only second and blah, blah, blah. We're just going to skip all that stuff for now and click OK. I believe that's now going to fix it. And so now the drop-down list will, and it does work. It only shows me the ones for that one thing. Yep. Now go to another record and choose platinum. What's going to show? Nothing. Why is that?
Because we have
You
nothing.
didn't enter any.
Because what?
You didn't enter any sub.
That's right. Go to submetal, the table. layout, and make a new record and add platinum. And what were my platinum choices again?
Brushed or shiny?
Yeah, there you go. And now go back to your entry screen. And boom, just like that. So this is what I love about this feature. It's very immediate. You can really give fast results to your users. Because if they say, oh, I need another choice in my list because now we have a new territory category, whatever, you just go and make it and poof, it appears. Okay, that is relational value lists. It would be very normal if some of that stuff was really difficult. This is one section of the video that you might need to kind of rewatch. I've also made some videos on YouTube that you can probably find specifically about this if you need to use this feature. It's one of the less obvious parts of FileMaker, but I think it's a really important one to cover. So that's why I wanted to do that. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, let's take a 2-minute break or 3 or so, and then we're going to come back and we've got more categories to cover. We're going to, let's see, we're going to talk a little bit about scripting theory, like why you do it, where you do it, how you do it, what types of scripts you can make. We're going to do an overview of the different script steps that can work in FileMaker. And then we're going to talk about some calculations and different types of places that you can use calculations while you're scripting. So that's the remainder of our agenda today. And those are going to be separate things. So we're going to try to have a little bit of time for our brains to reset in between these very, very different areas. All right, I'll see you guys in a minute.
My computer's tied up.
Okay. All right, we've done 2 pretty intense, cool, fun things so far. Oh, now we get to sit back a little bit and get a tour of the different categories of script steps. So everybody can see my screen?
Yep.
So I'm going to go into
Yeah.
the script workspace again. And just like we saw with calculations, so in the calculation area, for example, here, you've got them by category, right? So you've got container, timestamp, et cetera. Okay, script steps work in a similar way. You've got categories of them that you can sort different ways. And they're kind of in different areas. So let's talk about them. So first of all, you can favorite ones that you like and then put them in there. Okay, control. The control area, so this is where we see if, else if. Anytime you make an if, by the way, as we saw, well, actually, I'm not looking at, I should look at the script that's actually more thoroughly built with an if. Anytime you make an if, it always puts an end if in. If you take the if out, the end if out, you can't, the script is no longer valid. Like it will say you can't do that. So there's certain things that it just doesn't let you do. So other things that we get here are allow user abort. This allows or disallows the user from actually canceling the script. So sometimes you actually have a process that you want to guarantee that once it starts, it completes, and that's what allow user abort gives you control over. Some of these things are not so important. Machine learning, NFC reading, monitor. Let's skip those. Exit script is kind of interesting. So you can basically say, like, if a certain condition is met, if you know, whatever happens, get last error equals 401, something like that. Then you can actually say the script is going to just stop running right in the middle. And it will just exit, and then no other code below that point will run. Halt and halt script is very similar to exit, except halt halt stops the whole script stack. Exit just stops the current script. So one of the things we haven't looked at yet is that scripts can actually have subscripts. And a subscript is basically the perform script command. And so a script can actually call another script. So I can say, oh, if a certain condition is true, then I'm going to run Carly's report. So you could make like a master report script that calls a bunch of sub-report scripts if you wanted, which is a good way to do it because you don't want any one script to get too long. So you can, you know, say in these certain conditions, then run this other subscript. And those are also in the control area. You can also pause a script and wait either for user to do something, or you can pause for a certain amount of time. So you can say, I'm just going to pause for 1 second and wait for something to happen. That's rare, but sometimes that does have a benefit. I actually don't think it's a good idea to pause scripts in most cases, but it does sometimes come useful. At the end of today, if there's time, we're going to talk about perform script on server because that's pretty cool. Set error capture we already looked at. That's where you can suppress FileMaker's natural error messages. And then set error logging is a more advanced one where you can turn on. There's a local file that can get created where if errors happen in scripts, it can write them out to a text file on the user's computer, which is pretty cool. Set variable we're going to get to later today, but that's a really powerful one because this opens up the whole calculation window again in a really, really powerful way. Set variable is kind of like the let function in a script. You can kind of define a bunch of little parameters and then act on them. So we'll play with that. Okay, that's the end of the control area. Navigation, we've only looked at this a little bit, right? So what do? We looked at find mode, preview mode, go to layout. And these mimic basically what you would do as a user, because all these things have controls. You click onto a field, you click into preview mode, you click into a specific portal row, you click from one record to the next record or one page to the next page. So all of those things are basically exactly mimicking user actions, whereas things like set variable, for example, are very much not that. They're even though they're procedural, they're not things that the user can really do directly. In other words, if you're just using your database and you're doing data entry, you can't set a variable. You can modify fields, you can change data, you can type information, but you can't say, create some calculation to, like we were doing to conditional visibility to say, if this condition is true, then hide this object. So there's kind of a mix. And in the navigation area, these are all things that the user can do. The editing ones are left over from old versions. In older versions of FileMaker, the only way that you could actually get data to run a script from one script to another was using the clipboard, cut, copy, and paste. It didn't actually used to have the set field command and the set variable command. So don't use really any of these pretty much. They're just left over for compatibility. Once in a while they're useful, but pretty rarely. The field area, set field is one we've already looked at. Set field by name is similar to set field, but it's more abstracted and more advanced, and one I don't find that useful. We looked at replace field contents manually. That's that copy down command. Some of these ones are left over, like insert text, and then some of them are really, really cool. Like you can insert a PDF. So it'll grab a file from the desktop and then stick it into a container field. Some of these ones are especially useful on an iOS device. You can actually grab something from a camera of the phone and put it right into a field. And that's insert from device. So some of these are obscure, export, insert audio, video, and some of them like insert from device are really, really cool. So here's what insert from device looks like. You choose what field you're going to go into. I think we made it in work orders, picture. And then you choose where you're going to get it from. And so if you choose camera, you can actually choose the front or the back camera from the phone and what resolution you want. It's pretty cool. I use that one very, very frequently when I develop for iPhone. Let's see, what are some of the other ones there? Yeah, I don't really use insert. Last visited, that's from like the last record you were just looking at. That's pretty obscure. Insert from URL is actually more of a powerful one. for doing web programming. Xavier, you're going to be using that one a lot in web development. And anybody else who does web development, that's a really powerful one. So insert from URL has some ridiculously powerful options underneath it. So again, you can choose a target field or variable, and you can specify a URL. And then the really, really powerful area is curl options. These are definitely advanced. So yeah, this is a really powerful one. So this allows you to construct a really complex string driven from data on your database, and go out to the internet and run a command to say like, oh, authenticate this credit card to see if it's right or not, or anything like that. Create a mail list subscription for this user on MailChimp. Go look up a Google Calendar record for this particular person on a specific day. It can interact with any service anywhere on the internet with this command, insert from URL. So that's the big one on that one. Let's see. Fields, records. These ones, also kind of like navigation, are all things you can do directly. So these mimic commands in menus, pretty much. Delete records, delete rows, create records, import records, export records. And so you can just have a script step to export and create a file on disk, and export a certain order of your fields. So like you can have a button that exports like addresses in one script, and it will just create a file. When you export records and when you work with files on disks, there's a couple of other commands that you usually do with it. Because when you have an output file, usually you'll just give it like a path. And then there's another command that you would use with it. You actually use set variable, which I told you I'd get to later. You would set a path to like get desktop path, and then some file name, right? So like those two commands together would set up the path that you're going to be doing, and then export records to that file location. So that's kind of a 1-2 punch. So as you look at code, you'll probably see these come in pairs like that. Truncate table is an interesting one. That will delete all the records in a table very, very quickly. So if you have like a temporary table that you're using for staging data, and you don't want to, and the function of the table is to actually have 1 million records and then delete 1 million records and then import 1 million and delete 1 million. That's actually useful for that, but that's possibly obscure or advanced. Some of these ones also are interesting, like new record is certainly ones we see, like, oh, I want to have a script, like, one of the ones the make a note script uses new record. It takes data from a little widget on your layout, a global field, and then creates a new record in that note table, and then sets the data into the note table, and then just goes back to the original layout. So that's another really good example of that. Open record is a little bit more obscure. That actually it opens and locks a record to make sure that no other user can edit it. Revert is what that one does is if you try to edit a record, so it's like a try command. So in other words, you're saying go to some record and attempt to make an edit, and you test for an error that if another user is actually currently editing that record right now, or if some other thing happens, revert will undo all your changes to that record before they get committed. It's not often used, but that's what that does. Save as, so you can just like we looked at the export command and import command, you can export them as Excel or PDF or snapshot link. So that's it for that area. Found sets. So it's another one of these ones that match menu commands. So for form find we've looked at. That's one of the most powerful ones. And then also you get sort, constrain, and extend found set if you've played with those. So that's like, oh, I have a found set of records. I did a search for everybody in California. Now I want to constrain it to just people in San Francisco, or I want to extend it to also add Oregon. Omit is like a surgical command. So if you're looking at a list of records, like I'm looking at 21, and I'm looking at my list, and it's like, I don't really want to look at this one. Omit, I can just omit this one record. So this one is a menu command as well as a script command. You could just say, get this one out of my list. Show omitted only is the flip command here, where you can basically change your set. And so those are all in the same area. Show all basically says, look at every single record in the table, and show omitted only is that thing I just did where I flipped the set. Found sets, windows. So we looked at this. One thing we looked at already was new window. And you can also refresh, close, open, move, scroll, select. So these are all just different things related to Windows. And there's a couple of other things here too. You can control menu bars and rulers and things like that. And you can have script steps to do those things. You can also set a zoom level. So you can, like, upon opening the database, zoom to 100% or zoom to 150%, something like that. Files. Yeah, some of these are like, why is, some of them I sort of like, why do they put print in here and print setup? FileMaker can have multiple data files open, and open and close file can choose what other databases are actually open. So that can be useful. Create data file, I'm not sure that I've ever actually used that one. But one of the things that FileMaker can do in recent versions is create a file on disk and just start writing to it. So you can just, basically create a text file and start writing records to it. And so all of those commands kind of went in here. New file, let's see. You can like get the file position, find out where the cursor is in it, find out how big the file is, and then when you're done, close it. Close data file. Those are not super commonly used, but that's where they are if you need those commands. Print and print setup are actually pretty big. When you do reports, print setup is where you would choose tall or wide. So if you're doing portrait or landscape, that's kind of where you would do that. And you can specifically set it to work for like a particular printer or just for like generic PDF. And then the print command will actually just print with or without a dialog box. So in a lot of these places, you actually see this toggle of dialog on or off. What are the other useful ones here? None of those are really ones you use very often. Accounts come into the security area. You can write code in a FileMaker script to allow you to create a user account. So when I went in to create you guys, I went into File Manage Security, and I manually put you in. But if you have a system with a lot of users, and you want to allow a user of your database to actually create another user for that same database, the account area would allow, you could make a script that would allow them to create a new user for the database. The one constraint is you cannot create a user that's full access. So you can make them an account, you can make them a password, but you cannot assign them the full access account, so it's grayed out. All the other ones, though, are available. So this is something you should do carefully, but it can be done. Okay. Also in here, another useful one is reset account password. So like, of course, they have to already be logged in, but you can give them a button to change their password from within the database. Spelling, FileMaker's had spelling dictionaries for a long time, but they haven't really kept it really well maintained. But it does actually have a central dictionary and a user dictionary. And you can have a button that does a spell check of a record. So like if you have a note area or like a letter writing system, and you want users to be able to write letters and you want to use a spell checker, it's there. Yeah, it has definitely not kept up pace compared to like writing a letter in Gmail or Microsoft that have built-in helpers for grammar and clarity and brevity, and they go way, way beyond just spell checking. But the features are there, and this is how you access them. Menu items, another one of those areas that take a look at things from the menus. These are also really seldom used. I think we can maybe skip past them. I almost never use any of them. They open up like different areas of FileMaker, like preferences or script workspace or things like that. So it'd be very rare in a script that you would have a button that would open up like managing of themes, because you would just go to manage themes. Your users wouldn't really need to do that from a button that you create. Miscellaneous, interestingly, this is where comment lives, so they had to put it somewhere. There's some other interesting ones in here. You can beep. It'll just make a beep command. Like if you have an error and you're showing a dialog box, you can make it go beep. Is show custom dialog in here too? Yeah. So dialog boxes. So there's actually quite a few useful ones in here. Comment, huge, of course. Dial phone only works on the iPhone or iPad, I think. So if you have a phone number stored in the database, it can actually just call them. It'll just send that number to the phone app and call it, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, touch keypad. When you're developing apps for iPad and iPhone, there are many different types of keyboards. So there's like a phone keyboard, a 10 key, a full alphanumeric, a keyboard designed specifically for an email or a website. So it has the @ sign and it has the like HTTP kind of stuff like that. And so all those different keyboards are accessible from here, but those don't work in Mac or PC. By the way, while we're on this list, there's a compatibility button we didn't talk about, and you can choose like which ones are available for Mac, and notice that those gray out. If we say which ones are available for phone, iOS, then the ones like dial phone and enable keyboard are there, but then the ones that are not available for that platform, like execute SQL and get folder path, become gray. And then there's another one, you can choose all your different compatibility ones. Xavier, you should definitely be familiar with these ones from the FileMaker Data API, because that's a quite restricted set. So the Data API can't do anything that is involved with like a user interface aspect, but can do powerful things like SQL and programming type things. And another area is WebDirect, which if you guys are interested, we can talk about WebDirect tomorrow. And that's the ability to program, to have FileMaker actually deploy a solution directly to the web without having to do any HTML programming. And as you can see, WebDirect has quite a bit of commands. It has a very big chunk of all the things you can do with FileMaker are possible. But there's some ones that for sure you cannot do, like dialing phone, and then some importing and exporting things cannot be done too from a web browser. So let's go back to that full list. Yeah, the X application, that's that one will quit FileMaker. What else is useful on here? On the Mac, FileMaker can perform AppleScript, and on the PC, it can send a DDE execute. So those are specific to those operating systems, and they allow you to run much more powerful commands on each of those operating systems, but they're not compatible with the other OS. Send mail is a really cool one. This one I want to spend a minute on. So the send mail has quite a few options on it. This can either send out through the email program installed on your computer, which unfortunately does not include like a Gmail web browser. But if you have Outlook or Apple Mail or whatever installed on your computer and you use that for mail, then it'll just open up a message in your program and populate the to, from, everything. Well, the from is going to be from you, but the to, the CC, the subject, and the message can be populated from the record you're looking at. And it can also attach like a PDF of a report. So this can be a really, really useful thing because it's extremely easy to write a script, to create a report, export it to PDF, make a mail message, attach the PDF to the mail message, and send it to someone. That's just a few script steps. So it's definitely a good thing to show. And this is how you get to all that. And it's very much data-driven. Show custom dialog we looked at, and Speak actually invokes the speech engine on the OS and can actually read a dialog box. But that's definitely a special trick. So that's kind of a tour. From all those things, are there any questions or anything that you kind of wonder whether FileMaker can does, or any questions of follow-ups on the things that I showed of what they do or don't do?
How do you add script steps that you like to your favorites? Under that favorite.
Let's see. If you right-click on it,
Okay.
you can say add to favorite,
Okay.
and then it goes into your list. And then, yeah, that keeps your list of the ones you use. Good question. Are there things in that list that you didn't realize were there, or things that you wish were there? I wish, like, make coffee was there. Take out the trash.
Is there a place where you can go, I don't know, like maybe Clara's website, where it goes into detail about what all of these do?
Yeah, help is what you're asking about.
Okay. Is that going to help within the database?
I think if you just go here, it goes to the Claris website and then tells you what that particular thing does. So yeah, just like we saw with calculations, script steps have a lot of other information about them. When they happen, what they do, and examples of how to use them. Yeah, so that's the answer to that. There is a reference area to learn much more about them as part of the built-in help in FileMaker.
I'm sorry, where was that again? Where was that?
So
again?
if you right click on any given script step, like
Oh.
a good one, let's see, let's look at if. Right click on it and say help.
Okay, I didn't know that was there.
And then the examples are really good. Yeah, so they'll give you multiple examples of how to use it. Look, if get found count, we looked at that one today. Form find, go to layout. Any other questions on that stuff? The next thing I want to talk about is a little bit of scripting theory. Sort of just some of the things we've hit on a little bit. When you're writing a script, start simple, test as you build, document a lot, comment at points that really make sense, where there's issues you want to test for. Yeah, test for found records. A lot of times I'll put in things here like test for no found records. I'll put in a line that says like, found all good, found some. And then down here, no records found, close window. Right, close window. So I'll actually put in, you know, quite a bit of narrative at each section. Separate from just the commands, because it's just a little bit easier to read them. And notice that they're also a slightly different color if you're modifying your script. By the way, my script, this would break really profoundly. So I think I'm gonna put an exit script here so that nothing below here will run. So I can keep some of those things in so we can kind of see what they do. Yeah. So let's see. Scripts, they sort of fall into a few different categories. So navigation and report type scripts. So for example, if I want to run my report, I can call a script to do that. And then once I'm on my other layout, I might want to come back. Right, so if I'm on my report, oh, I'm on the Carly layout. I want to be on my layout. Not that one. I want to be on reports mapped. So if I'm on this layout, it doesn't really make sense to do data entry on this layout. So I would want some navigation to go back to my customer, and I want to be able to click on this line and go back to it. So what I would do here is I would make a button and I would put it behind the entire body. And I would not put any text on it. And I would just have it do, in this case, rather than a perform script, it's going to do a single step. So this is technically not scripting, except interestingly, you can have a button call one script step. So rather than being an entire script, you can just say, oh, this is just going to do a go to layout. So I can just click here and type GTL. and say it's going to go to a layout. What layout? It's going to go to my data entry screen. And then I would stylize that button. Oh yeah, my theme is Apex. I'm going to change my theme to my theme and have my button be some kind of a theme like transparent. So now if I click on that line, it takes me to that record back here. So I can kind of get back and forth from my report, my list layout to my other layout. It's not really directly related, but I would also submit that on a list view like this, you don't really want the ability to edit the name of the, edit any records, right? So to do that, you can just click on all of your fields. And over on the data tab, you uncheck the box for editability in browse mode. And now when I'm on my layout, I cannot click into my field. I cannot tab into it. It's just invisible. Weirdly though, it still sort of has like a highlight when I'm on it. So to get rid of that, that's a theme issue, right? So I would select them and choose a theme style that's transparent, and so that it doesn't have now the theme doesn't actually have that color, that white highlight, and that would be a normal way to look at this for a report. So yeah, and then I've got sort of two buttons here. I've got run report, but I might also want to just say show list. So one of the other things I love about button bars, I've already showed you how to make only a one segment one, but I just added a second segment by clicking plus. And the show list is just going to say go to layout. Again, single step, GTL, go to layout, report mat. So this basically will still take me back and forth from, so if I show list, scroll down, declab or decalb, click it, show list, scroll, Jackson, click. So this is a really clean way. And one category of scripts is just super simple navigation. We have not made a menu, but we really need a menu. And that's going to be tomorrow is dashboards. So we'll talk about like what was really common back in the day was a main menu with just a bunch of buttons. And that as things have evolved, a much more useful thing to do is to create a menu with meaningful data on it about your data and about your day and about how you need to interact with it. It doesn't necessarily need to be graphical like a chart, but for example, one of the reports that we looked at today was what notes have been created today? You know, what are the things that have been assigned to me that I need to follow up on? What other events in my database affect my life that I need that are actionable? And so we'll talk about like ways to get to build that. Another category of scripting is procedural ones like that report, or exporting a list of records, or importing, or doing something that basically like automates some processes that were manual, and you want to make those as simple and as assisted as possible. And another area, maybe the last common area, is kind of functional black box type scripts that do things like test a record for completeness. So if we're looking at this record right here, and I have like a quality score that I want to assign to it, like we've got this please follow up thing because there's no notes in the last 30 days. But let's say that I've got a list of criteria like In order for this record to be good, it needs to have a color, like gold or whatever. It needs to have a note in the last 30 days. It needs to actually have some quotes generated. And it needs to have an address filled out, right? So there's like those 4 things need to exist. Otherwise, this record needs some attention. And so you could write like a big calculation type function. Like we've got this follow-up thing that we built. This is a single calculation function that kind of tests for some things. But another way that you could do that is kind of a like a black box automation script. I'll quickly demonstrate. I'm going to make a script called test record for completeness. Right? And I guess I'm trying to think. This really needs to use set variable because that's really kind of what this thing does. So the first thing that it will do, and I'll put in a comment. Right, so turn a flag on if an issues. So the first thing that I want to look at is, are there any follow-ups? So I'll make one called follow-ups. And I'll just say case note is empty. So there's no node ID. No, I'm going to do it a different way. Count. If the count is 0. So there are no notes. Then I want some condition to be true. So if there are no follow-ups, that would be a problem. And so 1 is true, otherwise 0, not true. So follow-up error. And then another variable I'll set is address error. And this one's going to be another case. So if the address field is empty, then true. And then another thing that I'll do is, what's the third thing I said I was going to test for? Oh yeah, the gold level thing, metal error. So if it's empty customer level, then true. Let's just do those 3 for now. And then I want to sort of display my errors. So I can choose kind of how to do that. Yeah, and I'll do another set variable for that. So I'll call this error list, or like completeness. Now, in set variable, like in a let function, these are sort of very temporary. Show completeness, I'll just concatenate these things together. So follow-up error and address error. We'll do some more on this in a minute. Oops, I hit enter in the wrong way there. Okay, those are my 3 different errors. I'm just sticking them together in a thing. And then the show custom dialog will be whatever my completeness is. This doesn't really make any sense yet, but this is kind of pointing at how you would code something like this. So it would procedurally go through and do several different tests and then combine the results. And then show you a dialog, display the results of the, right. So if I ran this, and I'll turn on data viewer, I can kind of watch and see what it does. So this found a metal error and a follow-up error, but not a address error. So the value of completeness is just true, true. So it's not really very useful yet. And it shows a dialog that says, oh, hey, by the way, you've got errors happening. So that's definitely not what I would want. So probably what I would want is something like this. So in my completeness, I'll say if the follow-up error is true, so case follow-up error equals 1, then enter some follow-ups, right? And that's my entire calculation with maybe a hard return at the end. And then I'll have another test. I'm going to punctuate these the way that I normally do. So, and then I'll just skip address error. No, I'll put that one in. And then case address error equals 1. Then show address is missing, right? And a return. Might as well finish it out. Just takes a second. We don't have anything else to do. If metal error equals 1, then please select customer level. So that concatenates the 3 different errors. And if any one of them or all of them are true, it will show me a message. Address error equals 1, and show address is missing. Oh, don't need that. Yeah, so I get a message like this, right? It shows me multiple things at once, and that may or may not have been easier to write than a single let function, but it's going to be easier to maintain. So I think the thing that I was trying to get to is this is kind of a type of procedural code that you could call from different places and maintain in a pretty easy way. And it can run really fast. So that's another like type of script that is, I think, is common in a lot of databases. Do you guys encounter things like that in your systems? Has anybody used a function kind of like this before that tests a record for completeness or quality or anything like that?
No, I haven't done that.
Is it a dumb idea or maybe useful? I'm trying to think of some other areas. I probably would have to just like look at some other databases that have written for different types of things. Well, one of the things I really want to talk about more was set variable. And then there's two other areas that we didn't really get to yesterday. I'm looking at my list of things, which were conditional formatting and tooltips. And those are other areas to do for calculations. So for the last half hour, let's have someone else share and let's do some exercises that take a look at those two other areas, conditional formatting and tooltips, while we also take a review of any other things you guys have questions about. I might actually be running a couple minutes even ahead on my agenda for what I wrote down that I wanted to complete today. Who wants to share?
I'll go.
I saw that some of you guys were playing with, as we were looking at layout today, I saw like some other formatting. But there's definitely some layout widgets that I think would be really good things to get to. So let's start with conditional formatting. If we want to highlight attention to something on this layout, if a certain condition is true, there's a feature called conditional formatting that allows us to do that. Let's see. Go over to the additional tab. Let's come up with some good examples here. Like what on here would you think is really important that it be filled out, that we could use some sort of a clue to visually show that it's not the way that it should be?
Email, maybe?
Yeah, that's a good one. So go to layout mode. And I think a really good one on this one, if you right click on the email field and go to conditional formatting, this is the area for conditional formatting. Now this actually has two modes. One mode is it just takes a look at the value and you don't even actually have to write any code. So click on add, and where it says value is between, click on the between thing down at the bottom and just say empty. So if it's empty, then click the fill color checkbox and choose safety yellow. Like right in the middle of the yellows there. Yeah, that's good, yeah. And then click OK. So that's a really simple conditional formatting function. And then if you went to your layout and deleted your email address and then went out of it, it's like, hey, this is important, put this in. And then if you put that back in, like type an email address in, now it's clean. So that's a really good example of a way to subtly direct your users to the behavior that you want. So again, don't show an error message. Don't necessarily even have the script that I just wrote to do a quality check, which certainly could look and maybe should look at the email address. But instead, it just has a very clear visual cue that important data is missing. So Another one we already looked at yesterday, 2 days ago, was the conditional visibility. Conditional visibility always requires a calculation, but conditional formatting does not, but it can. Let's say that we really want to look at the hourly rate. So go back to layout mode and click on the hourly rate field. Go to conditional formatting here. And let's click add again. And this time, where it says value is, change it to formula is. And then click specify. Notice that we have self. This is actually a pretty good use of self. Let's just say if self is greater than 125, and then delete the stuff to the right of that. If self is greater than 125, click OK. Then make the, that could be a potential error state. So choose bold and fill color and make the fill color super light green. Okay, one of the things that's cool about conditional formatting that's not true about conditional visibility is you can do multiple things. So let's test this one first. Go to browse mode and type in 130. Oh, it's in the additional tab, sorry. It's the hourly rate on additional. Those are confusing because they're in the exact same spot. Go to layout mode and click on that field again. And one of the things I love about this is you can have multiple tests. So go back to conditional formatting, and we're going to add another one. This one, we're just going to say if it's empty, make it safe to yellow. And we're going to add a third one that says if it's under 30, and then also we can actually say just plain less than 30. So we didn't even need our function on the other one. If we wanted more code, we could have done that, but this actually makes it a little bit simpler. And this one, we're going to use a fill color of really light red. Now, I'm going to think of some other things here. Okay, conditional formatting, in this particular case, those three examples are mutually exclusive. It's either empty, under 20, or above 125, or whatever the number you put in. But it's also possible that we could write our tests such that multiple conditions are true. And if we write it that way, then it would actually use all of them. So this is unlike our let function and coding. This one will apply multiple different things at the same time to a field. So bold and italic and color, for example. It came up yesterday, performance issues of having a lot of conditional visibility and whether that will take the speed of a layout down. And I said, if there's 100 or so, it will. Conditional formatting can also do that. And it's especially true with conditional formatting because many of them can be true. So these are things to use, I wouldn't say sparingly necessarily, but be aware, I think. Okay, so go to layout mode again. Do we see any visual cue that tells us which fields have visibility and formatting applied to them?
Yes.
Those cues can be turned on and off. If you go to the view menu to show, you can turn on and off what things you do and don't want cues for on your layout. Yeah, but the default ones are actually pretty good. I actually add one other one to that, which I really like, which is text boundaries. I really like to see my text boundaries. But that's, you know, there's a lot of preferences in FileMaker. While we're here, let's play a couple more layout things. There's little breadcrumbs that I forget to get to, and it's hard to kind of remember. Go to browse mode for a second. Notice that our screen is really tall and wide, and our layout is not expanding to fit. And I wanted to do that, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Go to layout mode, and there's multiple things that we have to do. First, click on your tab panel, and that's just kind of anywhere in the gray area of the tab, which selects the whole thing. And yeah, you did it. And then what I want it to do is I want it to expand vertically, but not horizontally, as I resize my layout. So over on the right on that panel, there's those 4 tabs, and this one is the leftmost one, the first tab, position. And you see the little lock icons, auto sizing? Click the bottom one. That will pin this object to both the top and the bottom of my layout as I change the size. Let's do that one thing. And it's not going to be all the way done because there's more stuff to do, but let's just see what that does. When we go to browse mode, our tab panel will now be really tall. It actually goes down to the bottom of the page. But our portal didn't grow. So our work order still cuts off. Let's figure that one out. Go to layout mode. And now click on our portal and click that same box on the bottom. This is causing a problem, which we're going to see in a second. So go to browse mode and we're going to see what's going to happen. Okay, see what happens there? The total is right in the middle. And that's because we pinned our portal to the top and bottom, which allows us to scroll. In the very top right of your window, click on the icon to the middle of those 3 icons, not closed window, but the one to the left of it. That makes the window resizable. And then you can like grab the height and make it. Yeah, you can see rows appearing and disappearing as you resize the window. Okay, go back to layout mode and let's fix the problem with the total field. So we have to click on the total work field and its label. Shift click the 2. And then notice them right now, they're actually pinned to the top and left. What do you think we need to do to fix this?
Pin to the bottom.
Pin to the bottom?
Yes.
And to the top as well, or not? So click the bottom, the pin to the bottom thing. Do we uncheck or do we leave the top pin alone?
I think you uncheck the top.
Any guesses? Let's test it. Go to browse mode. It's still not right. Look at it. It actually made a gigantic field. It's really tall. That's because we pinned it to the both top and bottom. So in this case, if you want something to be only pinned to the bottom, you have to uncheck that box. There you go. Now this is where you want. If you resize, it's going to work correctly. Let's play with these a little bit more. Go to layout mode. Click on your platinum and brushed fields. And then what I'd like you to do here is uncheck the box to pin to the left. And so now we're pinning it only to the top. That is actually going to pin it to the center. So go to browse mode. And if you change the size of your layout again, it zoomed to full screen again. So now change the width of your layout and notice what happens to those fields. They actually stay centered. So they're a distance from the left, but then once the layout gets wider than a certain point, they move and they stay on the center of the layout. So we have one more fix to make though, and that's back to layout mode, because now that the customer ID field has to be pinned only to the right. So you have to click on that ID in the top right corner. And pin that one to the right and not the left. Actually, it needs to be pinned to the top too. And then now I think this is going to work better. Yeah, so now the ID is in the corner. If you resize your layout and you move it around, you'll see that it makes more sense now. Yes, this is good. This is great. Okay, do you think by the fixes that we did, do you think they're going to apply to the quotes tab or the notes tab or any of the other portals? Who has a guess?
No.
No.
No is the correct answer. You have to do them portal by portal. So take a look at the notes tab. Yep, we can see that they did not grow. So go to layout mode and fix that one. Ooh, I see another issue here. You've got your portal is slightly wider than your tab panel, which probably won't break anything. But ideally, you want your portal to be entirely within the tab panel. So I think what you need to do is maybe make your note text a little less wide. Move the who field over a bit, and then make the portal less wide so it fits entirely on that tab panel. There you go. So you've also got your portal now pinned to all 4 edges, which means if your tab panel was actually expanding to the left and right, then your portal would also go to the left and right. However, if the enclosing object does not have that characteristic, then the portal, it won't break, it just won't do what you maybe expect it to do. So there's a lot of little, there's a lot of little tweaking that you might need to think of, but this is an area that I really recommend you guys play with in your databases. Oh yeah, look at that. So something happened here. What broke? Can you describe what you're seeing on your screen here? This is I'm really glad this happened because this happens really frequently when you mess with layouts.
I don't really know what I'm watching at, to be honest, what I'm seeing.
Click over to another tab, like the quotes tab. And the additional tab.
Oh, okay, I see.
Do you have a guess as to what happened?
They're like stacking up.
Any idea?
Yeah, they're on top of one of each other. We're seeing both.
So like the portal that is supposed to be on the notes tab is actually on all tabs. So it somehow came it came unanchored. This happens a lot. Okay, let's go slow here. Click over to the first tab and notice that we still see the notes thing, right? So it should not be there, but it shows up there. Click over to the notes tab again. this is the place where we can kind of do the fixing from. And it's a little bit subtle to fix it. The easiest way to do it is to grab the notes portal and move the entire portal way off to the right to the gray area. Yep. Now go over to the first tab and see if it looks right. Okay, that no longer has anything on top of it. Go to the second and third tabs as well. Okay, now go to browse mode and then make sure that it's not broken. Okay, great. Now go back to layout mode. Go back to the notes tab. And then drag that note back into the tab panel. And then before you leave, here's a really easy way to test it. When you have a tab panel, if you move the tab panel itself, which you just did, and the objects all move incorrectly like they just did, that proves that all the objects are correctly anchored or they're correctly inside of it. Now, when you go back to browse mode, this should work correctly. So yeah, yep, there you go. And you can see that it's pinned to the top and bottom. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there's a lot of little layout things that it's got so many subtleties. It's kind of hard to remember, all of them and program them into a lesson. Okay, so we've covered conditional formatting a bit. The one other thing on my agenda is tooltips. And tooltips is a pretty cool feature. So sometimes what you might have is you want to put some sort of a help text in if the user hovers over something. A good example of that is the make a new note. Let's put 2 on this layout. I'll have you keep driving. So go to layout mode. Now, actually go back to browse mode for a second. Notice that inside make a new note on the notes tab, it actually has some text in it. That's pretty cool, right? I don't know, how do we do that for one? Whereas other fields, like click on the very, very first note for 822, delete that T. And notice that it's blank. Go to layout mode, and then we're going to explore a couple of things. Click once on the G note text field, and we're going to see all the things that we want to look at in the same area. Okay. Over in the top right, on that panel, click over to the Data tab. You see a little piece of text in there that says Make a New Note. That is the placeholder text that goes into the field only when it's empty. Click once on the Note text field inside your portal. And then over in the top right in the placeholder area, say, modify text of this note. Type that in there. I love that you actually put that in quotes, but you actually, in places like this in FileMaker, you don't need to. FileMaker will automatically add the quotes for you. So when you tab out, it actually puts them in. You can't not have them. It just does it automatically. Okay. Click over to the first tab, in that top right. And then there's another area that we haven't looked at yet, which is tooltip. So choose your G note text field again. And then in the tooltip area, click on the little pencil. In the very top, name and tooltip are the top 2 things up there. And then here's where we can put, we can actually have a calculation, or we can just put in quotes, type a sentence like this. This is a quick way to create a note for this customer. and then click OK. And then now take a look. We can see another little icon popped up there. Okay, so if we hover over that for a second, the tooltip comes up. So now we have like multiple cues that we put on this layout. So we're doing lots of little things here to make this easier to use that I hope you guys appreciate. Now, tooltips, there's no control in FileMaker for how long they stay. So basically, if you hover over it, it shows up after some fraction of a second. And then if you leave it there, it goes away after some other number of seconds. And you can't control them, but that's there. So there's a joke that we use sometimes called tool tome, where you write a really, really long tooltip with a long bit of help. Don't do those because the user will not have time to read them because they're only there for a few seconds. What's another way that you could put help text on a layout next to something to help users understand how to use it?
Like a pop out, maybe?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going for. Let's demonstrate how to make one. Go to layout mode, and we're going to do our reflex, make a new one segment button bar. Make it next to the little clock icon on the top right. Give it an icon. So yeah, that one there. And then choose like an information icon. And then down where it says button on the bottom, change it to popover button, which is what you said for pop out. And on this one, what you would do is you would move that button bar widget over to the right a little bit so we can see the whole thing. And then we're just going to use a text. So grab the text tool in the very top area. In the well, there's a couple ways to do it. Yeah, that one is kind of an easy one. And then just draw a box right in the middle of the popover. And in here you can say, ensure that you've complete the data entry on this layout, or your pay will be docked accordingly. Docked is D-O-C-K-E-D. Also, to be a total nerd, it's ensure en in this particular case. Anyway. Yeah, you know me, I always go for the humor whenever I can. Nice, you got the spell, you found the spell thing. Okay. So this one will allow the user to like click on something and just get more information. I want to show one other feature of these. Double click on the button again. This brings up the button bar setup. When you make a popover button, notice at the bottom that you can choose what direction it pops out to. Left, right, top, or bottom. This one probably should pop out to the bottom, but make it pop out to the left just so you can see it. So click it's not there, it's at the very, very bottom. So it should just icon only, and at the very bottom, there's those 4 icons. Click the leftmost one. And then you can also uncheck the box, show title bar. Or you can leave it connected, leave that box checked, and then change the word to help. Or about this layout or something like that. And then if you go to browse mode, this could be a really useful way. So you got tooltips and you've got help buttons and kind of a really good way. And those are very, very efficient and fast popover buttons. it's really satisfying to make a lesson plan and to complete everything on my list 5 minutes before class ends. I'm really happy. So what questions do you guys have? It's really good to it usually doesn't happen that way. Usually I have like 5 things on there that I didn't get to, but today it worked out. What'd you guys think about today? What was your favorite thing? I mean, obviously scripting, but you know.
I think figuring out how to like auto size.
Oh yeah, auto size.
Audible
See,
with
it's
your
always
team,
like,
that's really helpful.
yeah, it's a really good one, and it's not as simple as it seems. You know, there's some subtlety there. What else did you guys like?
The buttons here. That's really
Yeah, I like those.
The button?
well, like what? So
Oh,
they're
yeah,
linked
yeah.
to other data. So yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Conditional value lists, related value lists.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That was good too because we got to review relationships and make a quick little one-to-many relationship from the customer to the submetal table. What else? Comments or questions is what I'll take at this point. Tomorrow we have some flexibility in our schedule. So I want to make sure that I get, if there's anything that we haven't yet covered that you really want to make sure we cover, I'm going to try to incorporate that into the agenda tomorrow. What things do you guys want to make sure we get to tomorrow? Like some of the choices we have are security, programming for FileMaker Go, programming for FileMaker for iOS. That's the same thing, sorry. WebDirect is what I meant to say. Some of the more other, we could talk about like running scripts on server. We could talk about server management. There's a whole bunch of things that all could fit in the normal schedule for this class. I just want to make sure that if there's ones that you guys care about, we cover them.
I'd be okay with going over security and server management.
Server management, yes?
Yeah, and security's good.
Okay.
So one of them you talked about where you could export to HTML. Can you import from HTML?
Yeah, there are some ways. That's actually hard. But we can take a look at them a little bit. So exporting to HTML. Do you have some a specific example or use case of that?
Not off the top of my head right now.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at what the issues are, and we'll have some time to do that tomorrow.
Sure. Thanks.
And then also generally talk about exporting and importing a little bit. Okay, what else? Security, server management. Does anyone have interest in WebDirect? Do you guys work on that or care about it?
I would be interested in seeing that a little bit. We don't have anything like that, but.
Okay.
Same, and with FileMaker Go.
Okay, great. I'm glad I brought this up. Those are definitely good things to do. But yeah, there for sure are some design, I wouldn't say constraints, but ways to optimize when you're developing for those platforms. Important things to consider. Anything else? Did you get enough of relationship design, Did you get enough scripting? Did you get enough calculation? Is there any of those areas that you want more of?
Did you review relationship design, or is that something you did in your beginner?
We did. It was in the beginner class, actually. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, I posted the link to the channel, which has all the beginner classes online. Did you guys see that link in chat, in Teams?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yep, so that's going to be, I'll post all the videos for this whole series, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I'm not entirely sure the advanced class is scheduled or if you guys are signed up for it, but that's where they're going to go. Yeah, I like to do those channels for each set of classes. And I haven't yet put the link in there for the previous time I've done this class, but I'll do those as well and paste that link in there.
Perfect.
Good stuff. Well, that's really good feedback for what to cover tomorrow. So I'll come up with a good lesson plan to make sure we incorporate all of that. Any other questions for today?
Nope.
You guys are awesome. I really appreciate, you were much more interactive, it seems like, and I definitely like that a lot. Like sharing your screen and asking questions and stuff. So yeah, thanks again for letting me share my love of FileMaker with you all.
Thank you.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Alrighty.
Thank
Alright.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.